성평등을 주장하는 한 여학생이 벤 사피로에게 말합니다.
No, gender is not disconnected from sex. So
it's not completely disconnected, but it's still a cultural thing. It's still from society.
Okay, no, it is not in the mind. Okay, you're not a man if you think you're a man. And I didn't say pretending. Or sex or gender are malleable is not true. Okay, and I'm not denying your humanity if you're a transgender person. I am saying that you are not the sex to which you claim to be. That men are women and women are men? No. My answer is no. I'm not going to modify basic biology because it threatens your subjective sense of what you are. And if I call you a moose, are you suddenly a moose? Okay, if I redefine our terms, no, yes, that's right. Men and women are a completely different thing. This is true. Have you ever met a man or a woman? They're completely different.
It's a completely different thing. You can't just say you're a cat. It's not a thing. It's genders. It's not saying you're.
Okay, why is that? I don't understand. Why? Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, I won't ask you how old. I will ask you how old you are. Okay, because you're young enough that it's probably not insulting to ask you. So.
I'm 22, so I'm probably young and naive, right?
No. Why aren't you 60? Why aren't you 60?
Because
And why can't you identify as 60? What is the problem with you identifying as 60?
it's not the same as gender. You can't just.
You're right. Age is significantly less important than gender. You can't magically change your gender. You can't magically change your sex. You can't magically change your age.
You can still legally change it. People recognize.
You can't legally change your age, by the way.
Obviously, you can change your name, you can change your sex, you can change your identity.
Just because you can do things legally doesn't mean that they are correct biologically. You could do lots of things in the past that were incorrect biologically and correct legally. For a long period of time in the United States, sterilization of the mentally ill took place. That didn't make it okay. Skinner versus Oklahoma. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote the decision. Is the idea that all of their problems would just go away if I would pretend that they were the sex to which they claim membership. That's nonsense. The transgender suicide rate is 40%. It is 40%. And according to the Anderson School at UCLA, it makes no difference. There's a study that came out last year. It makes no difference, virtually no difference, statistically speaking, as to whether people recognize you as a transgender person or not, which suggests there's a very high comorbidity between transgenderism, whatever that mental state may be, and suicidality. That has nothing to do with how society treats
you. Do you think it could be because of they're bullied at school?
No, I don't think that. I do not think that the discrepancy. First of all, I'm against bullying of any sort. Okay, the idea that somebody would beat somebody up is terrible. Okay, as somebody who's viciously bullied in high school, I'm not a fan of bullying. But the idea that the normal suicide rate across the United States is 4%, the suicide rate in the transgender community is 40%. The idea that 36% more transgender people are committing suicide because people are mean to them is ridiculous. It's not true, and it's not backed by any science that anyone can cite. It is pure conjecture. In fact, it's not even true that bullying causes suicide, according to a lot of studies. For example, in the black community, where the idea is supposedly that America is a racist society, blacks are bullied a lot. Okay, in the black community has significantly lower suicide rates than in the white community.
Do you think it doesn't impact their identity at all, or their depression, or how they feel about themselves?
I think the idea that you're going to sacrifice the entire society's proper definition of sex because you think that there is in legal terms, somebody with an eggshell skull, meaning that somebody who has a pre-existing condition that makes them more susceptible to criticism, that is not a way to run a society. You can't sacrifice truth because some people are going to actually suffer because of the truth. Plus, there's no evidence whatsoever that the suicide rate would go down in the transgender community in any marked way if people just started pretending that men were women and women were men. We're trying that experiment now. We'll find out whether it works. So far, no evidence.
많은 대학생들의 성 이데올로기에 대한 생각은 이렇습니다. 성의 종류는 무한하다. 6가지다. 최소 70가지 이상이다. 생물학적인 남자가 자신을 여자라고 한다면 여자 화장실이나 여성용 락카룸에 들어갈 수 있고 그 반대라고 해도 괜찮다. 그게 공평하다. 다른 사람을 배려하는 것이 중요하다. 여러분이 생각하시는 성 이데올로기는 어떠한가요? 시간과 장소에 상관없이 수시로 원하는 대로 성이 바뀌기도 둘 다 생길 수도 혹은 없어질 수도 있는 젠더 플루이드. 남성과 여성 두 가지 성별 의식은 가지고 있으나 상황이나 심리 상태에 따라 의식적으로 혹은 무의식적으로 여성이 남성으로, 남성이 여성으로 완전히 전환될 수 있는 바이젠더. 성에 따른 특징을 따르지 않는 비관행적 젠더. 남성과 여성 어디에도 해당되지 않는 제3의 성. 남성과 여성 모두의 성을 가지고 있는 two-spirit gender 등 이 외에도 너무나도 많은 성들을 포함하고 있습니다. 오늘날 우리는 남자와 여자가 하나이고 동일하다는 이야기를 참 많이 듣습니다. 남성과 여성의 차이를 부정하는 것은 우리가 남성과 여성으로 출생하지 않았다는 신념으로 이어지는 것이죠. 그 성별이 무엇이든 자신이 그것을 선택할 수 있다고 할 때 그 피해는 고스란히 여성에게로 옵니다. 실제로 생물학적 남자인 폴렌폭스 격투기 선수는 스스로를 여성으로 인식한다는 이유로 여성 선수로 경기에 출전하게 됩니다. 그 결과 상대방 여성 선수인 타미카 브랜츠에게 두개골 골절 뇌진탕을 입히게 되죠. 성 정체성은 개인의 선택이라는 생각이 발전적, 진보적으로 들릴지도 모르지만 사실 이것은 남자와 여자는 근본적으로 다르다는 본질적인 사실에 대한 비과학적 관점입니다. 현재 대학, 언론 매체, 다수의 대기업들, 고등학교, 심지어 초등학교를 운영하는 사람들까지 이 사실을 바꾸기 위해 노력 중이죠. 실제로 초등학교에서는 성의 다양성, 성평등, 자신의 성은 자신이 선택한다는 이념을 아이들에게 주입하고 있습니다. 드래그 퀸, 바로 여장 남자가 공립도서관에서 교육을 하기도 하고 학교에서뿐만 아니라 아이 생일 파티에서 이벤트를 하기도 하죠.
I've been waiting all my life for someone like you. I would watch the days go by, wasted and blue. I was out of use. Now every day, every night, every moment with you, I'm walking on air. And every day, every way, I feel I can't lose.
제 눈에는 생각 없이 즐기는 어른들 사이에서 저 아이는 도대체 어떤 반응을 해야 할지 모르는 표정인 듯한데 어떠신가요? 학생들을 더 이상 남학생과 여학생으로 부를 수 없고 오직 학생으로만 부를 수 있거나 남녀 공용 화장실이 생겨나고 있으며 남녀 공용방이 빠르게 일반화되고 있는 대학 기숙사가 늘고 있는 이 시점에서 우리는 분명한 사실 하나를 알 필요가 있습니다. 바로 성은 경이로운 것 중에 하나라는 점. 남성과 여성의 다름을 인정하고 감탄하고 그리고 누릴 수 있어야 할지도 모르겠습니다.
If your sex is what you say it is, then what prevents me from playing on a women's field hockey team? What prevents me from getting convicted of a felony and demanding to go to a women's prison? And it's a real question.
It's not a
Why
real
is it not a real question?
It's not a real question because it is pretty absurd, and there are no other examples.
Because why?
Because there are no examples of this.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry, but there are no examples. This is the same argument about saying that this will allow sexual predators to go into women.
I'm not
into
making
women's
that
baths.
argument.
Yes, but you are making that argument.
Okay, what I'm saying is, I just want to know what the standards are. I'm not actually making any claims. I'm merely asking a question, and I want you to answer.
Yes, the standards
Is
are
there a
exactly
scientific
as they-
standard? Because when you deal with questions of biology, that is a species of science. So what's the scientific standard? I'm a scientist. I want to know if you're a man or a woman. How do I find out?
Look, these are discussions that I encourage you to have with someone who is transgender, and they can come and talk to you about.
I don't need that to speak to a trade. I can speak to you because you think about this stuff for a living. So it's a very simple question.
Yes.
I want to know if you're a man or a woman. I'm a scientist. How do I find out?
Your gender identity determines your gender, period.
Okay. So should someone who looks like me, I look like a man, you think I was a man, I say I'm a woman, and I demand to play in a women's sports team, I demand to go to women's college, I demand a small business administration loan for women-owned businesses. That's a real thing. That's $1 billion question, for real. Can you turn me down if I say I'm a woman? So, as a apparent man, if I say I'm a woman, is that enough? Do I meet the standard as a woman to play in a women's sports team? That goes right to Title IX. Don't dodge the question.
I'm not dodging the question. And yes, the answer is absolutely yes.
Okay.
Gender identity determines one's gender.
Let me ask you
period.
this.
Right.
Is there science behind this? Because I know that I'm often getting...
absolute science.
Really,
Absolutely science behind
I want you to name a single scientist, just one, who says you can determine your own sex just by saying so. Can you name one scientist who says that?
I'd be happy to send you many after.
A scientist who said you can determine your own sex. An actual scientist, like someone who went to college.
Listen,
Are you serious?
You clearly have some issues around this.
It's not an
and
issue at all. I have
which
questions that you can't answer. And you're instead throwing things like you're not enlightened. I'm asking you a sincere question. What's the science behind this? And you're deflecting. Why?
I'm simply not deflecting. This is a matter of settled science, and we have had transgender protections in this country.
But you haven't explained what transgender is. You're just saying it's whatever we say it is.
Look, you want to go into this right-wing pseudoscience.
It's not right-wing at all. It is.
It absolutely.